Welcome, folks. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, shehakol nהיה בדברו.
Amen.
L'chaim, l'chaim, everybody, l'chaim. Oh, I see that we're not connected on top over here. Speaker. No, should be fine. Can someone speak for a moment and say, I just want to see, no, from
Testing.
Okay, testing, perfect. Okay, that's what we needed. Thank you very much. Welcome, folks. Good Tavach, Shavua Tov. Welcome to everybody. A new week, new life, new divine energy. So, a question. What is something that's meaningful to you and memorable? Give me an example. Something meaningful and memorable. We're going to start off with Helen.
Oh, the other. I have to think. It doesn't come so fast.
Yeah, I wanted it fast. That's why. Don't know without thinking. Just something meaningful and memorable. It doesn't have to be.
Okay. When I joined the club for African Violet Club.
The what?
The African Violet Club.
African violent? Violet. Oh, I thought you said violent.
The African Violet Club.
That was meaningful. Okay.
Yes.
Go ahead. Okay.
Unbelievable.
All right, beautiful. Sharon?
Swimming with my great nephew and then playing with my great niece.
Okay. David?
I'm meaningful and I'm important. So
No, I said meaningful and memorable, something memorable. Oh, so you're meaningful and memorable.
I
That's
can
it,
remember
finish.
The day I was born, so
Oh.
that's very memorable.
Hamid?
Hashgacha Pratit when I met you guys at 2019 at Simpas Torah outside next to McDonald's.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay.
My first Aliyah.
Your first Aliyah. Okay. Oh, on Shabbos. Yeah, it was just on Shabbos. Okay, beautiful. Okay, Wendy, please share with us. Meaningful, memorable. You're all going to be put on the spot. So, I wanted to quick. Wendy, you have to unmute yourself. You're talking to yourself now. Not a good idea. Talk to us. Unmute yourself. Unmute.
Maybe it doesn't work.
Maybe, okay.
Click on unmute. There.
There we go. Go
Okay,
ahead.
I'm good. Sorry. Becoming a parent, that was the first one. Becoming a mom, that was the first one that came to my head.
Okay. All right.
The second one was going to New York with you.
Oh, okay. Very good. Tim?
That's what I was going to say. This past Shabbaton in
Oh,
New York.
okay. In New York. Yes, that was indeed. Akoy. Diane, Andrew, Art, Hava.
Being a parent for me was meaningful and memorable.
I'm sorry, I didn't say that again.
Being a parent,
Being a parent.
my
Beautiful.
daughter. Yes.
Okay. Davida?
I think I was going to say being a mother was my first one too, but I'll also add mending fences with my father before he died. It's a big one too.
Okay.
Nice.
Okay. My father's bar mitzvah. Oh, he's a Holocaust survivor, so it's bar mitzvah after. Okay, beautiful. Aliba, you're also gonna thumbs up on that one. Andrew?
Get married and have kids.
Married and have kids. Okay. So, what's meaning and memorable about? Is it like the overarching experience of it? I would imagine, right?
It's the joy.
Yeah, of course, the joy. But I'm saying it's the overarching experience of it, right? Okay. Keep that in mind. All right. This week's Parsha. Moshe Rabbeinu is continuing with his lengthy sermon. So guess what? I'm going to continue also in a lengthy sermon.
Not 36 days long, right?
Exactly. Well, we'll see how long you last. Yes, exactly. And in this week's Parsha, we have many commandments. And we have an interesting one. that's nestled amongst many. Let's share, because sharing is caring. So let us share. Here we have, oops, nope. Oh boy. What do we do?
You have to download this.
So download it first. Okay, give me a moment, folks. Sorry, we didn't have, okay, what am I doing here?
Top left, there's a
This one
download
here,
button.
yeah?
Yeah.
Click here.
Yes, please.
All right. Oh, that was painless.
You can see.
Yeah. Oops. All right. Now let's share. Which one?
Oh,
This
no.
one?
Yeah. that one.
This one?
Yes.
Yeah. We're good. Okay, we're good. You're great. Okay. So the verse says, everything that I am commanding you, be careful to fulfill it. Do not add to it and do not subtract from it. Subtraction means, for example, there's a mitzvah to say Shema, at least for men, twice a day, because it's a time-bound mitzvah. So women are exempt from it. Not that they can't say the Shema, but they're not obliged to say. You can say the Shema. Of course, a woman's supposed to pray, the daven, right? But she's not obliged, right? So to subtract would say, well, you know what? It's only one mitzvah. Now maybe a person is ready only to start with doing it once a day is one thing. But to subtract and to say that the mitzvah is only once a day would be a subtraction. And that's what this verse is coming to say in the latter half. But what does it mean not to add to it? What does it mean not to add? It means, well, don't add to the mitzvah and say that there's 3 times a day to say the Shema. Or for tefillin, for example, we have 4 portions that are written in the tefillin. And let's say I love the mitzvah of V'ahavta L'recha Kamocha. I love that talks to me. The mitzvah of loving a fellow Jew, and I want to put that into my tefillin. I want to put that into my tefillin. That's adding. Not allowed to do it. Can't add that. Now the obvious question is, why not? I mean, why not? Because the verse says so. The Torah says so. But what's our understanding behind it? Why not? If it's going to express a greater love for God, then what's the problem? To express a lesser love for God by taking and only saying the Shema once a day, right? Or to say the only 3 Torah portions in the Tefillin, or to say only 3 species for the lulav and esrog, not 4, because I don't know, I don't like lulavs or whatever, whatever it is. So that we get, but to express with greater love and devotion, what would be wrong with that? Seemingly shows a greater connection.
God didn't ask you to do
It's
it.
arrogance. If you do that, it's arrogant.
It's arrogant. Okay. I can't argue with you because the verse is telling you not to do it. Is that the reason though?
Make it yourself.
I think no, I mean, can you enhance a mitzvah? You could, right? Can enhance and beautify a mitzvah. For example, you could buy the best esrog, in town, have the best tefillin. Yeah, 100%, 100%, right? So what comes out of here, and the point over here is that the details in the mitzvah are essential to the mitzvah. Therefore, for Parshias of the Tefillin, right, 2 times a day the Shema, those are some of the details, or whatever the details are crucial to the fulfillment of the mitzvah, right? But that itself we need to understand. Okay, we see the Torah, it speaks that way, but why exactly? What is the understanding behind it? For those who have been lucky to be at my Pesach Seder. I mean, lucky,
Which one?
huh? Anyone. So know how I eat my matzah.
Yes, me too. Yeah, we know.
And I'm actually a little hurt. I'm a little hurt, and none of you said that that was your memorable moment.
No, watching the.
The way I eat matzah. No, I eat without the plastic because I go around off the table and I munch it so quickly, so ferociously that they think I'm a crazy man. So I thought all of you were going to come and say the way well, at least a few of you been, huh? You've been haunted ever since. So you have to eat. So you have to eat, since I have a Seder plate. So the mitzvah is you have to eat from the top matzah, the middle matzah and the bottom matzah, half a matzah each. That's if you have a Seder plate. If you don't have a Seder plate, then half a matzah is sufficient. But you have a Seder plate because it's a question, which one is the real matzah? Will the real matzah please stand up? And since they're lying down, we got a problem. You got to take from both. If they would only stand up, we wouldn't have a problem. So you got to take half from both. And not only that, you got to eat them at the same time. So don't finish one half and then do the other half. You got to eat them both at the same time. And you got to do it preferably within 4 minutes or maximum 6 minutes, right? Right. So I'm munching away. Others have half the amount that I eat. So you could eat it more in a genteel, refined way. But the rabbi is there like a madman trying to finish the matzah in a crazy manner. Like, why? Like, enough already. Just, so it'll take you 10 minutes, but you'll eat it more like a mensch and so on. Huh?
2 halves.
2 halves.
That's like 30 seconds.
Dry matzah, not so easy.
No. This is not bread. This is matzah. Bishmor, no. Anyway, listen. Anyway, David, you'll come to my house this Pesach and we'll see. We'll test you out.
Matzah like a rabbit.
Wouldn't it make more sense that the mitzvah would be eat it more in a genteel, refined manner, meditate upon it beforehand, meditate and kind of take in the aroma, not that there's an aroma from the matzah, but you know what I mean. Like take in the experience in the moment rather than being focused so much on the details that it's almost like, whatever. That's the question, right? Why is that details in such a manner that are so significant? Or if you go to the mikvah, a woman who goes to the mikvah, and if 2 hairs are sticking out, then it's like she didn't go to the mikvah. I mean, 99.99% of the person is immersed in the mikvah. 2 hairs, it sounds a little off the charts. I'm a little off the charts when it comes to the matzah, right? Again, it's only me because of the Seder plate or whoever has a Seder plate. And, you go to the mikvah, it sounds a little off the charts. If you look at the mezuzah over here, the mezuzah coming, right? When you walk into the room, it's supposed to have the mezuzah on the right. Well, when we walk out of the room, we have it on the right. Right, Chabad does it differently. The whole debate to what are you supposed, what is inside the room, what is outside the room, where it's the right, what's the left, and there's volumes and volumes of literature written just about a single detail of this mitzvah of mezuzah, where to put it precisely.
Also,
Why? Why is that so important? Isn't it more important that we have a good feeling about the mitzvah? Isn't it more important? Okay, do it. And of course, appropriately, but why the focus in such great detail? Now, this is not just my question or the Rebbe's question. Many commentators have this question. Let's see. Text number 2. Why does Jewish religion seem so obsessed over insignificant details? How much matzah do we have to eat? Which spoon do I use for milk, and which one for meat? Which is the right way to tie my shoelaces? Yeah, you know that there's a right way to put on your shoes. Right foot first, left foot first. Tie your left foot, then tie your right foot. And when you take them off, do them the opposite. Right? It seems to me that misses the bigger picture by focusing on minutiae. It is nitpicking. Is this nitpicking what Jews call spirituality? I actually sent you this question over a week ago, and I didn't receive a reply. Could it be that you have finally been asked a question that you can't answer? Okay. So are we OCD when it comes to doing mitzvahs? Yeah.
Rabbi,
Yes.
even these, when you cut your nails,
Mm-hmm.
left hand is,
Yeah, well, okay, we're gonna be here a whole night just on this. So we're gonna, yeah. Well, as a matter of fact, just to bring up this idea, before I came to Chabad, I was in a non-Chabad yeshiva in Toronto, near Israel, Misnagdim, or if you will call it a Litvisha, a Litvak style of yeshiva learning. And I remember that something that made a big impression upon me, that touched me. It was like a dagger in my heart that someone said to me. It was at a Shabbaton, helping some kids that were high school kids, bringing them close to Yiddishkeit. They weren't religious at that time. And I was coming from the non-Chabad yeshiva, and there was two Chabadniks that were there. At one point, the guy says to me, "You know what's the difference between Chabad Hasidic teachings and the Litvak way, the Misnagdim, if you will, for lack of a better term? Not that there are any Misnagdim. Misnagdim means opponents. They were opponents of the Hasidim." It says, what's the difference? He says, by Chassidim, we learn to serve God. By Misnagdim, they learn to serve a book. They learn the book and what the law is, and then they go into the book. What the law is the law like this, and then whoever has come to learn Rambam, right, with me, we learn that daily, or whoever does learn Rambam on a daily basis. You see the minutia and the teachings of the Rambam that could, like, my gosh, first of all, you have to have a whip of a brain to be able to get the finer details, and a razor sharp mind for it. But like, sometimes you get lost in the details of things and you forget that there's a God that you're serving. And that's what this guy was saying to me. Like, it was like a dagger in my heart when he said, like, you're getting so caught up in serving a book, but it's about serving God. So this is the question over here. How do we understand this? All right. So we are going to answer this based on a Hasidic discourse from the Rebbe Rashab. The Rebbe Rashab, fifth Lubavitcher Rebbe. He was the father of the previous Rebbe. He passed away in 1920. As a matter of fact, he's known like the Rambam of Hasidic teachings. Very profound teachings. We do a mimer every single morning, not 7:05 in the morning, for those who are lucky enough to be up. And those who are not lucky enough to be up, Schlafgesundheit. But if you're up, 7:05, either right here, or you can get it on Zoom or wherever else. As a matter of fact, we got a bunch of the regulars on Torah studies are here. Okay, so in a Hasidic discourse, he explains that mitzvahs and the details of the mitzvahs are based on the desire of God, right? Now, what does that mean? God is infinite. His desire is also infinite. As he is infinite, so is his desire is infinite, right? So at the core of a mitzvah then is God's infinite desire for it, right? Okay. The desire in mitzvahs is connected to God's innermost essence, higher even than God's desire to create the universe, right? Does God really want trees?
He likes them, he gave them to us.
Is that what he really wants?
trees.
One second. One
Maybe
second.
it's
One
less.
second. One second. Well, I have the right person here to ask this question. Do you really want flowers? No, you don't.
Don't.
No. What you really want is what the flowers do for the kala, or for the wedding, or for the simcha. You really want flowers? No. You want what it does, what it creates, right? Makes the, if the kala is happy with the flowers, you're thrilled, right? So it's you really want flowers? No. They're a means to another end,
I
right?
don't like them in my house.
Okay, don't give trade secrets away here, Judy, you know. Okay, at this point, I guess it's okay.
tired.
Right. So does God really want the universe? No, that's not what he really wants, right? Just like you don't really want the flowers. You want what it does for the kala, for the bride, right? What it does for the simcha, how it brings joy to everybody that comes, and it creates a beautiful atmosphere, right? So likewise, what does God really want? The universe? No. He wants the mitzvah for us, right? That's what he wants. Although the desire to create the universe is also a deep desire, it is limited insofar as God's desire to create the universe is ultimately a desire that he should be drawn down into the universe within the finite confines of the universe. The desire God invested in mitzvahs, on the other hand, is that he should be drawn down without any limitation whatsoever. Rather than just as he exists above, he should become present below. God is infinite above. This physical world is finite. So when God creates a finite world, it's finite, right? That's not what he really wants. He wants his presence to be in this world as he is above. He's above infinite. Well, he wants that here too. How does he get that? It's called a mitzvah. That mitzvah brings the presence of an infinite God into a finite world. Is that clear? Yeah? That's really what he wants, right? Now, how's that work exactly? Kind of a paradox, though, right? How do you have an infinite God in a finite world?
Team two.
Okay, very good. Right? So now the mitzvahs are also limited. In other words, God, yes, he wants his infinite presence here, but it's a finite world. So even though the mitzvah is of an infinite quality and nature, if you will, but in the end, the mitzvah is also limited, right? How's it limited? Well, only 4 parshas in the tefillin, Shema twice a day, right? The Shema has to be said before the end of the 3rd hour of the morning, right? That's a limitation, right? All mitzvahs have certain limitations under which they can be performed. For example, tefillin have to be made from 4 scrolls from 4 compartments in the het tefillin and 1 compartment in the hand tefillin. Moreover, there are many detailed laws regarding the manner of writing the scrolls, manufacturing the boxes, and putting them on. Likewise, tzitzis have to be made from in a specific manner. Likewise, a sukkah cannot be smaller than 7 tvachim and no taller than 20 amas, which is about 30 feet. All of these measurements and specifications come from the supernal desire, meaning that God desires that the mitzvah be performed specifically in this way. This translates to limitations in the divine light. For when the mitzvah is performed as specified, the light is drawn down as if it is not. No, sorry, it is drawn down. And if it is not, in other words, done with the specified manner, it isn't, right? In other words, the mitzvahs are a channel for the infinite light, even though, paradoxically, the mitzvah is very definitive and finite, specified, limited with parameters. You would think to draw down an infinite light of God, you would have to do something more of an infinite nature. That's what intuitively you would think. By the way, that's what everybody does think. That's why a monk goes on top of a Tibetan mountain, gazes his navel, because that is a human activity that is more of an infinite quality. That's why a priest won't get married. Right? I know that was for property, but that's the excuse. That was to maintain the property within. Fine, that's 100%. That's all politics, right? Yeah. No, but the point is, intuitively, we feel to find the infinite, we have to do something of well, we're finite people, but we have to at least engage in some manner of an infinite way. And here we're saying the opposite. The vehicle for the infinite is the finite mitzvah in its specifications, right? That's how we channel it. But how's that? How does that work exactly?
Makes sense.
Okay.
I have a question. If one conducts their life with constantly doing mitzvahs, can't you define that as being something that is infinite because it has a continuity to it?
You mean because you're doing it forever?
And everybody's doing it, so that's.
Well, not everybody.
Yeah.
Well, not
Well,
everybody
don't you say
does
the
it.
synagogue,
Yeah,
right?
fine.
Okay, but
Synagogue.
what we're
Jesus Christ.
listen to the paradox over here. The paradox is over here is we're saying in the finite delimiters of the mitzvah, the parameters of the mitzvah is where you find the infinite, right? That's what's being said. So it's, in other words, well, let's read this over here, okay? Let's read this over here from the Rebbe Shab again. In truth, this limitation is not a limitation in the light itself. Follow this. It's a bit teeth, as they say in French. Excuse my French. It's old French. It's old French. It's old French.
You don't speak.
Huh? Old French. I speak Old French. Every day I speak Old French. You come for Chumash and Rashi teaches Old French. Oh, I said Old French from almost 2,000 years ago. Yeah. Okay. So in truth, this limitation is not a limitation in the light itself, meaning it does not determine how much light can be drawn down or whether it will be more or less intense. After all, essential infinite light is not subject to such terms. Rather, the limitations of the mitzvahs determine only how the light, the unchanging infinite light, is drawn down. If the mitzvahs are performed in this precise way, then the light is drawn down, for that is how God decided he wants his light to be accessed. This is not because the precise details of the mitzvahs have any inherent qualities that enable them to access God's light, but rather because God decided that it should be this way. Right? We think that the world is inherently finite, and therefore God is inherently infinite. So I need to remove myself from this world and find an infinite manner of how to connect to God in order that I can access something infinite of God. But it's the opposite. I'm finite. God's infinite. The only way I can have a relationship to the infinite is when he makes the parameters to it. The parameters that he sets to it is not because inherently there's something to it, because he decided that this, for whatever reason, it doesn't matter what the reason is, right? God doesn't need a reason. You know why? Huh?
Because he's God.
And he created reason. We think reason is a limitation of a reality. It's a limitation of the human condition, but not of a godly condition, because it's a creation. Rationale, logic is a creation of the world. God is not limited to that rationality of creation. He creates it. He's not limited by it. So therefore, he can say that I want you to do the mitzvah this way, not because inherently this is the way you access him, because his choice is what dictates that you can access him, right? Otherwise, if it was inherently this is the way you access him, then who's really God? the mitzvah is God and not God's God, because inherently in the mitzvah is a limitation that this is the vehicle and how you can access. No, it's God is God, and he dictated that when you pick up the cup this way and go this way and that way, oh, now you can connect to me, right? I mean, in the mitzvah, right? And not because inherently there's something to that, but since he chose it, and he said that this is the way you can connect to my infinity through this finite manner of the expression of the mitzvah. Is that clear? So, what does that mean? So God didn't choose an esrog. Like God's thinking, come Sukkot, I have something, a very important value that I want to get across to the Jews. So I'm going to have to get them something that's going to bring that value to them, right? You following? Oh, esrog is going to teach, because esrog grows in all seasons. And I want the Jews to learn a lesson. You got to be not a survivor, sorry, a thriver in all seasons. You got to grow whatever is thrown your way. Whatever I throw your way, I want you to learn from it. So now, Mr. Esrog, I'm choosing you because you're the one who's going to make the lesson clear to the Jew that they need to be thrivers and all, because as the esrog grows in all seasons, that will teach the lesson. That's how we think about the mitzvah. No, God chose the esrog. You know why? Just because he wanted it. Now, it happens also to be imbued with a rationale, but the rationale that it's imbued with is an afterthought, so to speak. No, it's his thought too, because it's his wisdom. But wisdom comes after will. Right? You desire something before you understand, you have a rationale for it, right? You want goodness. Why? If you want it because it's for the rational reason, that means you're not really good. That means you want good because it's good for you. You want to do this good because you have a rational, logical reason to do good. So that means you're not really good. Means you're just doing it for your self-glorification or self-benefit, right? That's what, if you wanted it rationally. But if you want to do good, because what do you mean? I gotta be good. Well, why do you have to be good? Because you want to be good. Because God is all good. Why is God all good? Because he is. So why I want to be good? Well, because God is. So I want to be all good. Not for rational. Now with that, I can imbue it with rationality thereafter. Right? If I do it the other way, you know what I'll become? One word. It's called a Nazi. You become a Nazi. Yeah. Huh? You start with a rationale, and then the goodness is justified by the rationality. Right? You start with the rationale. The rationale is we need to create a pure race. That's the rationale. Right? Now, whatever fits the rationale, that's good. Got it? That's how most people function, though. Right? Most people function that way. But that's human. That's human, but that's not divine. Divine is God is good. Why? Because he's good. So why am I good? Because that's my will. That's my desire. I want to be good. God's good. I want to be good. Period. Right? Now, from there, I can now clothe it with words of rationality. But it doesn't begin with the rationality. Now, what's good? Oh, okay, so I got to see what God says is good. And then that will, then I can give words of rationality to it, but only after it is based on the will of God. So God wants the mitzvah because he wants the mitzvah because he's good and that's good. Because he wants it, that means it's good. Right? Period. That's what it means. Not because of rationality. Now it will be clothed into a rationality. So you know what? I want the esrog. He wants it. It's good. It's good for the Jew. I want the esrog. I want the other three kinds too, obviously, all four kinds, right? I want that. After that, he wants it, right? Which is God's want, that is beyond logic, which he creates. Right? His wanting is of him. His rationality is already a creation, if you will. I don't know, creation is the right word. In the human condition, it's a creation, but his rationality is not a human creation. It's his rationality. Now it's enclosed in a rationality of something that we can understand and get, right? Oh, there's a meaning behind it, right? Do I need the meaning? Yes. What do I need first, though? The will. God's will. What's his will? And his will is, this is the mitzvah, and this is how the mitzvah needs to be fulfilled. These are the parameters of the law, and this is how I will fulfill the law, and this is the way how I access the infinite of God. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Can a feeling be described or have a relationship with rationality? Because sometimes a person could do a kind thing, and they're not doing it because they want to feel good, but because it's the right thing to do.
Okay.
But as a result of that, they feel better.
Yeah, no. What did I say? Did I negate the rationality? No, but we don't begin with it. Do we negate that you should feel better? No, but you don't begin with that. You don't begin with that, but we're not negating it. Not negating it. The question is where are you starting from? That's the issue. Exactly.
Then the result is, it makes me feel good.
Right.
It's okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I don't do it to make me feel good. I do it because God told me to do it.
Actually, we'll continue on this thought, and yes, exactly.
Before
Exactly.
the act first, and the feeling comes after the act is before.
Because
Yeah.
God told you what to do. Good.
Well,
Okay. Yeah.
Simplify.
Let's elaborate on this further. Okay. We are obligated to perform the mitzvahs in a precise manner only because this is how God decided that the mitzvah should be performed. If God's will was that we should chop wood or something similar, we would chop wood. The limitations of the mitzvah, that God's will assumes a specific form and excludes other forms, are not for any fathomable reason. Rather, they are simply there because God willed that it should be so. Consequently, there is no limitation in the light itself. The limitation is only in how the light is accessed. The light itself remains God's essential, infinite light. So God contracted upon his infinite light, not on the light itself. The light is infinite. The way we access it is finite, very limited, very defined, right? That clear? Another mimer, the concept of limitation in the mitzvahs is that they determine how God's essence is drawn down, meaning that through performing the mitzvahs precisely as they should be performed, one draws down God's essence, which means infinite. In other words, how does one draw down God's essence? By performing the mitzvahs in the prescribed manner, for it is God's will that his essence should be drawn down in this way, right? So that's the paradox over here. Through the limitation of the mitzvah, it's the gateway to the infinite of God, right? When you go to the Grand Canyon and you're wowed by the scene, or if you had a memorable time of something, and you're wowed by something, right? In that moment, All you had was your feelings towards it, your perception of it. And that's what made it memorable, right? That's what made it memorable. I asked you in the beginning what was memorable, right? So things that are memorable are things that we have a feeling towards, right? And if that feeling was even, the more, what's the word?
Awe-inspiring.
Yeah, awe-inspired or more, out of the box, the more it became memorable, like my matzah eating.
Sure.
I think Helen's having a traumatic experience right now.
I remember that now. It's showing up. I think I blocked it out. Back.
You watched him and enjoyed the mitzvah.
Oh, he was enjoying it.
Yes. How could you not enjoy mitzvahs? If you can, if because through that way of acting, of doing that in the moment, having the aliyah, putting on your tefillin, lighting Shabbos candles in that moment, right? Through doing it, lighting Shabbos candles before sunset, not a minute after, right? What's the big deal? A minute. Is really gonna change or ruin the internal plan? Yeah, because you can't access the infinite. Not only that, it becomes even sinful at that moment, right? If it's on Shabbos. But the point being is when it's done in the appropriate manner, through that finite action, we have an access to the infinite of God that we're bound up and attached to in that moment that we wouldn't be able to have at any other time in our lives, right? And the reason why it's not so memorable is because what do we really feel of an attachment in the moment is whatever we feel is our human feelings towards it. We're not really experiencing the infinite of God when we put on our tefillin, when we light our Shabbos candles, because that is a light that we do access, but we don't yet experience it.
No, but don't we feel it a little?
I said, but that's our human feelings. We shouldn't think that that is the infinite of God that we're feeling.
I feel something special.
I didn't say, no, I didn't say, but that's our human. Okay, yeah. We are not yet refined enough. Only the righteous who are so refined that they're not feeling through just the human experience, right? Because we're talking about a divine
You
life.
just insulted all of us.
Huh?
I said, you just insulted all of us.
Why? What if you were that?
No, 1 second. 1 second. The first words in Tanya are before you're born, you're sworn that you should be righteous and don't be wicked. But if the whole world tells you you're righteous, don't be in your own estimation wicked. Like the wicked. All right. So
So where is that infinite light going if we're not truly it's going? Where's it going? This infinite light is being drawn down.
It's
We
here,
don't
you
feel it.
just Can't see it.
So
be aware.
it's.
Be
it's
aware that
still
in the
here.
moment that you are studying Torah right now, that you are accessing the infinite of God Himself in this very moment that is encompassing you in this moment. And when you light your Shabbos candles, when you make a bracha, when you daven, right? When you are, observing Shabbos, hearing Kiddush on Shabbos, and celebrating Shabbos, and whatever it is, to have the awareness that what I'm accessing through the limitation of the mitzvah, through the specifications of the mitzvah, right? That seem to be very nitpicking, but in that nitpicking, I'm actually bound up with God in that moment.
Feel the same. I bake bread all the time. It's nice. When I make challah, no, it's different.
Yeah. Does that make sense? Is that clear?
100%.
Does it stay for long?
as long as you're doing it. If you're praying, and that moment that you're praying, so you're bound up, right, with the infinite of Hashem. You draw an infinite light. By the way, there's ramifications of that infinite light. But before a ramification of it, the consequence of it, there is the fact of it, that we are bound up with that in that moment. So if you're praying right now, and what happens a minute later, you start speaking Lashon Hara. Obviously, you're not bound up with the infinite light of God at that moment, right? Right? You're not. Or even if you're not speaking Lashon Hara, you're just not doing a mitzvah, right? You just whatever,
Stop doing the mitzvah, now you're driving in your car.
right? So could you do a mitzvah then? Yeah, you could listen. You could listen to a podcast of a Torah class or something, and you're engaged still in something. Or you could be driving to come to a class. So that's a part of an accessory to, as they say, the accessory to the crime. There's the accessory to the mitzvah. That the accessory becomes also elevated and part of the mitzvah and bound up. So actually, that's what we call it a mitzvah mobile. Right? It's called a mitzvah mobile. Take your car. David is pointing, is the exact, he is the mitzvah man. His car is a mitzvah mobile because he goes and does favors to people and brings them to the hospital, brings them to wherever a doctor's appointment, wherever they need to go. Even offers them a bottle of water, right? Which he didn't offer us here, but that's. Oh, we go.
Let me drive you
Oh,
somewhere.
yeah.
Put a cold bottle of water in my car.
Right. Oh, exactly. So what your vehicle now becomes a vehicle for the accessory to a mitzvah. So it also is elevated. It's not elevated, it's elevated and becomes part of the mitzvah. All right. Becomes because you're doing an act of loving kindness. You're doing an act of loving kindness. So that also becomes now part of it. Even when you go to the gas station and put in gas, and the whole reason you're doing it is because you need to take someone to help them out. So then all of those things become connected also, right?
So when you're earning money in your job,
Also,
just
ultimately, yes. Yes. In a certain way, there's certainly even greater virtue in that, because now you're taking something that is not naturally mitzvah and binding it to Hashem. We're speaking about here specifically mitzvah, that with its limitation, and specifically because it's limited, is an access to the infinite of God. And that's the novelty over here that we want to make sure that we have a clarity on, right? Specifically because of the limitation of the mitzvah, right? And done with all of its limitations, right? And the more it's done with the specifications, right, in those limitations, right, the more you access the infinite of God in that moment of doing the mitzvah. Now there's consequences from that also, by the way, because the more you do it fervently, the more you create now from that mitzvah a garment for your soul. What do garments do? Two things. Why do you wear clothes? One is to protect you from the elements, and the other is to beautify you, right?
God told me to.
Okay, but that's the part. No, he didn't. He asked him, well, what are you doing? Why are you hiding? Because they were naked. They went in and covered themselves. They didn't realize they were naked. Before nakedness, they didn't have self-awareness. They only had God awareness. They didn't have self-awareness. Now they had self-awareness. Oh, I'm naked, right? So once they had that, then that's when they covered themselves up. So we cover ourselves up and that brings honor to the person to cover yourself up, right? But it also is a protection from the elements on a cold day, right? Cold day or whatever, right? So when you do a mitzvah, you create with that also a protective garment through the act of the mitzvah. What does it mean, a protective garment? Because your soul, after 120 years, it goes to Gan Eden. And for you to have the pleasure of the divine, which you don't have the pleasure today, we have human pleasure today, but not divine pleasure. But the soul will have divine pleasure in Gan Eden, but it's so powerful, and it's only a ray of light that you're getting of the divine, that you need a garment to protect you, to be able to absorb that divine ray of light that you did today in the mitzvah you did today, an attachment to the infinite of God. You created that garment, it's infinite. Well, it's infinite because it's stored for you in Gan Eden, that what you did today, you will experience tomorrow. In two ways tomorrow. One in Gan Eden, and the other one, Mashiach. In Mashiach, you'll experience what we do today, right? Today, we don't experience the divine. We create the reality of the divine that we're connected to. We draw it down into this world, but we're not experiencing it. Again, that doesn't mean we don't experience the human dimension, but not the divine dimension. It's too powerful. We will, Gan Eden, because we created a garment now in that mitzvah that we did. And we will then also experience it, not a ray of the light merely, the full intensity of what we have done now in the times of Mashiach, because then we will be able to experience it. You know why? Because then we'll be righteous. Then we'll be like a Rebbe who has the wherewithal to be able to experience how we have in this moment, this very moment, we have an infinite connection with this very moment in the learning Torah that we're doing. Again, let's not fool ourselves. We're not experiencing it. We're not capable. We're not soulful enough. But we need to, but it's important to be aware of it, right? To be aware of it, because that's going to be a great motivator, right? But what's important over here, and the point that I don't want to make sure we don't miss out on it, that how do we access it? That's the key. The access is through the limitation, the delimiter, the specification of the mitzvah. Now let's go back to our friend Rabbi Moss, who was asked the question, and the answer is, I never claimed to have all the answers. Remember, someone asked him, why are you getting so caught up in all the details of mitzvahs, you crazy Litvox? Where's your, yeah. So there are many questions that are beyond me, but it happens to be that I did answer your question, and you did get the answer. I sent a reply immediately. The fact that you didn't receive it is it itself the answer to your question. You see, I sent you a reply, but I wrote your email address leaving out the dot before .com. I figured that you should still receive the email. After all, it is only one little dot missing. I mean, come on. It's not as if I wrote the wrong name or something drastic like that. Would anyone be so nitpicky as to differentiate between Yahoo.com and Yahoo.com? Isn't it a bit ridiculous that you didn't get my email just because of a little dot? No, it's not ridiculous, because the dot is not just a dot. It represents something. That dot has meaning far beyond the pixels on the screen that form it. To me, it may seem insignificant, but that is simply due to my ignorance of the ways of the internet. As I know, all I know is that with the dot, the message gets the right destination. Without it, the message is lost to oblivion. Jewish practices have infinite depth. Each nuance and detail contains a world of symbolism. Every dot counts. Every detail in the mitzvah is a connection. Every detail in the mitzvah is what creates the portal to connect to God, and not just to connect to God, to the infinite of God himself, right? So why is this difficult? For a very simple reason. Because we all want to experience things in our lives. We want to, you come to a class, you want to have an experience, right? You go to shul, you want to have an experience. That's when someone says something funny. Oh, you remember that because that was experience. What was memorable? What's memorable? Something that was, an amazing experience, right? That's human nature, but that's missing the whole point over here, right? It's not about a spiritual experience when we are serving God. What is it? It's about doing the mitzvah because that's what God wants. That's what he wants. That's what he needs from us. That's his will. And therefore, that becomes our will. That gives him pleasure. Then it becomes my pleasure to do that for him, right? Just like if you're, making, if you have a flower business, it's your pleasure to give pleasure to the kalla, to give pleasure to the people who come to participate, because that's what you're there for. That's what the flowers are there for. So what am I there for? What is my purpose here? It's to give divine pleasure. So what gives God divine pleasure? When I do the mitzvah, as he said to do it. I would do it differently. For me, I have more meaning this way. But the point of the mitzvah is not for my meaning, for my self absorption or my self-fulfillment. And just like a human relationship, when you can be there for another for what they need, then you're a friend. Then you are a parent. Then you are a child to a parent. Then you are a spouse when you could do something for another for what they gives them pleasure, what gives them happiness, if you could do that for them. And that's what we're here for. We're here to give God joy and to give him pleasure. And what gives him pleasure? To do his will. How do we know that? Because the Torah says, when you bring an offering to God, it's interesting. It's in the offering to God. It says, Reach nechayach she'amarti v'nasir ritzoni. That this is a reach nechayach means a pleasurable scent. It's a pleasure, God says. He doesn't say it by any other thing, but it's a symbol for all other mitzvahs, and I'll explain why. Only by a sacrifice, it says reach nechayach. But every mitzvah ultimately is a sacrifice. Because what am I doing? What is the basis of the human condition? What's the first thing being human? Will. I want. Right? Does a child, the first thing the child has is a desire for something. It doesn't have an emotion for something yet. Because definitely not a regulated emotion, right? It doesn't have a rationale at all, but it sees the ball. It's a red one, and it's caught the attention. It wants it. It goes to grab it. Why does it want it? Just because it wants it, right? No rational reasoning. That's the first expression that there is. That's why in Hebrew it's called ratzon. Ratzon means, rats come from the word rats, to run. It's the first running of the soul, the first expression of the soul, the first coming out of the soul that expresses itself. Let me just finish the thought, right? So it's that you want something. So we all want. So when we can put aside our want, right, and do what God wants, and not only put ourselves what we want, but to do it in order to give God the divine pleasure, that's a sacrifice. And that's why it's by the sacrifices that it's brought this notion of reach nichayach, that you give nachas to Hashem, pleasure to God, by doing what he wants. Why? Just because that's what he wants. And when you can do that for a friend, give them a gift, whether it's their birthday, or whatever it is, you call them up and you just say hello to them, to give them a gift of friendship, to give them something that they want, that they need, they're needy of, and you give that to them. What have you done? You give them the nachas, you give them joy. That's what we do every time when we do a mitzvah. We're giving Hashem joy because we're doing His will. And that, in the end, will give us great pleasure because we really feel that we have a life that's worth living because we're giving Hashem joy. And you know what's beautiful about that too is? You don't have to be a father of 10 children like I am to do that. You could just be an individual. You could just be you as an individual, one individual. You may not even have anybody else, so to speak, family, but you do, because Jews were all family, right? We're all family. We got that, right? So we have that, all of us. And we have that capability of giving nachas just as an individual. And that's why Adam was created individual, as opposed to animals were a collective whole, because one individual to give nachas to Hashem, to do His will, is the whole purpose. Question?
Yes, I'd love to stay longer, but I need to daven. So I was just
Okay.
wondering, do you have a minion at all?
Not in the morning, 7:30.
Okay.
Come join us 7:30 in the morning.
Where's the closest one around Yeshiva?
Go to Yeshiva. 6405 Westbury. This is Westbury. Go to Plamondon.
Thank you. Oh yeah, Rabbi.
Okay.
So,
Be well.
so my question.
Yes.
The book. The book.
Which book?
Well, at the beginning, you said, you know, the Litvak said, well, all you're studying is the book. So I want to go see it. So Hasidism has put an understanding into the book.
Exactly.
Is that what this?
What did we just say?
That's.
In other words,
'cause the
get
book is
caught
the
up- one
same
second.
book You're following.
yes, but we're not caught up in the details, not forgetting that in those details, I access the infinite of God. That's the difference.
Okay.
That's the difference. Where you, if you study any Talmud or you study Rambam, right? It's so easy to get caught up in the details and forget that through those details that I'm actually being bound up with the infinite of God. Don't lose that picture. That's the, it's wonder. Of course you need those details, but don't lose what the point is.
Right.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. Any questions, folks? Was that clear?
Just curious.
Yeah, we're good.
Yes, Rabbi.
Yeah. All right, amazing. All right, so go do a mitzvah. Go down mincha. I have to down mincha too. All right. Thank you, folks. God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
TRC will be Thursday. Thursday, TRC. Thank you.